Women do not want weak men. I know it sounds crazy, right? But think about the TV characters that women are attracted to. Guys like Rip from Yellowstone and Jon Snow from Game of Thrones and Jamie Fraser from Outlander. And if you haven't watched any of those three shows, you can think of some strong, masculine guy that women are attracted to on TVs or in the movies. You know who they're not attracted to? Weak men. Weak men are guys that are lacking values, they're lacking vision, they're lacking purpose. And those are the guys that are labeled as toxic in our society today. That's one version of weak men. And then you have another version of weak men, which we won't get into in this video, but I'm specifically talking about how to be that man that complete good women are attracted to. I got super lucky because I used to be a weak man. I used to be that man that was out doing things that were extremely toxic. They were doing a lot of damage to me. They were doing a lot of damage to the people around me. They were harming the people that I loved. I was drinking too much. I was cheating. I was filling that void inside that was just so painful and caused so much emptiness. And I was filling it, unfortunately, the only way that I knew how at that time. And no one else was responsible for that but me. And I learned to fill that void and become a strong man. And to me, a strong man is a complete man. A strong man understands four things. One, that a strong man, a complete man, isn't always in his hyper masculine energy. There is a balance to it. He understands feminine and masculine energy and when to lean into both. However, a strong man is typically in the masculine. We'll get into more of that in a second. Number two, he has values. He has a strong set of values that he lives his life by. Number three, he has a vision for the future, something that he is constantly working to build in his life and be the guy that has the ability to achieve that vision, that ideal life that he wants. And number four, he has a purposeful pursuit in his life, something that he gets out of bed to chase every single day, to work on, to get better at. And sometimes he can have multiple of those purposeful pursuits. But for me, right now, it's just one thing. Once I understood those four things and I actually started taking action to figure all of that out, that's when I finally became a complete man. And luckily for me, my wife met me way before I became a complete man. And at that time, I was really just leaning in to being the most disciplined version of myself that I possibly could, so that I would stop doing some of the behaviors that I didn't want to do. But it was just so hard, and it was still causing so much emptiness inside of me. And I think that's probably true for a lot of guys out there that are labeled as toxic. It's not that they want to be that guy. I know that I desperately didn't want to be that guy, which is what made it so much worse. It was just this vicious cycle where I would go out and do something that I regretted, and I would wallow in this guilt and shame, and I would promise myself that I would do better, and then I wouldn't. And again, I eventually made the decision where it's like, I'm just going to be as disciplined as I possibly could be, which treated the symptoms, it treated the actions, but it didn't actually heal me inside. So the way that I laid those things out was not quite in order of how it actually happened. For me, the first thing was figuring out what my values were and building and structuring my life around those things and making decisions based on those things. And what I mean by values is not what some people describe values are. You know, if you look at like the Army values, and I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but you list things that are more so attributes, honor, integrity, discipline. Those are attributes. Those are skills that you can build into your life, but they're not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about are the things that I value most in life. And again, for me, that is simplicity, creativity, fun, and presence. And I weigh the decisions that I make against those things and ask myself, if I say yes to this opportunity, does it align with that? So if my buddies are like, hey man, you want to go out to the strip club and you want to get drunk tonight, does it align with simplicity, creativity, fun, and presence? And the answer is no. Going out, getting drunk, going and wasting money on freaking strippers and stuff like that, it doesn't align. It's not going to simplify my life. I'll tell you that. It will actually make it vastly more complex. It doesn't give me more ability to spend my time being creative, fun. Maybe, I guess, depending on how you describe fun, but fun for me is like a spontaneous dance party in the kitchen with my wife. Fun for me is not going and getting drunk, especially because I know that the next day that I'm going to regret it and it's going to pull me away from things that are much bigger priorities in my life. And presence, no, because I guarantee when I'm at the strip club drinking, I'm thinking about all of the other things that I could be doing with that time. So I'm definitely not being present in that moment. So that would be an easy no for me. And I look at my decisions one of two ways, either a fuck yes or a fuck no. If it's a fuck yes, it aligns with all four of my values. If it's a fuck no, it doesn't align with 1, 2, 3, or any of those four values. So that was the first step for me, was really taking time to get intentional and asking myself, what do I want more of out of life? And how can I use these things as a tool to make better decisions? The next thing was establishing a clear vision for my life. So this was part two. Part two, creating that clear vision. This was a process. And it was a process because the first time that I tried this, first couple of times that I tried this, I did it before I figured out my values. So I was creating this vision for what I wanted my life to look like in 3 years, but it was really hard to do that and have a strong emotional tie to it because I didn't know what I wanted more of out of my life. I didn't know what those values were. So it was really hard to do that. But I iterated it. Eventually I figured out my values. I iterated it 2 more times after I figured out those values. And now it is very, very clear to me. I want a copywriting business. I want a very successful community for men to help them find values, vision, and purpose, and to establish a foundation of physical health. Man, physical health is a big one too. So I didn't hit on that, and we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So maybe it's 5 parts. So I lied. Instead of 4, it's 5. So the foundation of physical health, but really just help them become the men that they want to be. So I'm looking for guys that, were just like me, that, were kind of getting into that midlife point, maybe their early 30s, even up to their mid 40s, and just realize like, hey, I'm sick of being this fucking guy. And I really want to be the guy that I know that I can be, but I really just need some help in figuring that out. And I know that doing it alone just isn't going to work anymore. So that's the community that we're building. So those are on there. My dream car is on there. And with the car, it's not so much about the car. It's about becoming the guy that can afford the car, that disciplined version of myself that builds those meaningful businesses that fill me with purpose. And then my forever home is on there. I have a very clear vision of what I want my forever home to be. I want my forever home to be my oasis, my escape, something that I want to travel, but that I don't need, that I don't feel the need to get away from. And I want my property to be somewhere that me and my family can continue to explore each and every day. We can hunt, we can fish, we can garden, and we can just go and feel peace and at ease in. I have some trips on there for my wife and I have my purple belt for jujitsu. I have trips for my family, including my parents, and being able to repay them for everything that they've done for me. That is what I want my life to look like in 3 years. And as I grow and develop, I will continue to grow and develop that vision. It's not about achieving those things. It's about enjoying the journey to achieve those things. And that is how I know that I will get there, because I enjoy every step of the process that it's going to take in order to get there, even the challenges. So vision was number 2. And then finding purpose, and learning the balance between the masculine and feminine energies and when to step into those roles to become a complete man. Those kind of happen simultaneously, but we'll talk about purpose first. I feel that men will pursue something relentlessly. And there's two different categories of the things that we will pursue. They were the purpose filled drive, or excuse me, there's two different categories of things that men will pursue. One is pleasure and two is purpose. For me, I used to pursue relentlessly pleasure, drinking, women, partying, things that basically told my ego that I was a man, and they were just, it was bullshit. And for you, it might be video games, it might be some sort of drugs, it might be something else that I'm on TV that it's something. Think about the times that no matter what, you get those things done. You make time for those things. Some of those things may be pleasure, depending on where you're at in life. For me, now it's purpose. And now I get my pleasure from pursuing those things that actually fulfill me and provide me with purpose. Those other things basically just made the hole inside of me worse. Those pleasure things, I think they dig the hole deeper. But pursuing purpose, they are also pleasurable, but they fill you inside and they fill that hole, they fill that void. And it was a trial and error process. I think this is a big question. How do I find my life purpose? Dude, you just got to try stuff. It took me trying things, figuring out, weighing them against my values. How does it align with my vision? How does it get me closer there? And eventually I started writing and I realized that I truly love it. And it was like, oh, duh. Like, you've always loved words. You've always liked speaking and inspiring people to take action and change their lives through your words. You can do that through writing. Oh, you can do that through copywriting, and you can make a really good living doing that. And then I thought about taking that a step further, and it's like I like speaking and writing specifically about values, vision, and purpose, and being a complete man and helping guys do the same thing. So now I can take it a step further. I can use my copywriting and my marketing skills in order to grow the community that I'm working on, which will all give me this sense of fulfillment and purpose. And the best part of it is, I think all of our true purposes, once we realize what those are things that are going to help people. I hear that all the time as well. Well, I think my purpose has something to do with helping people. Yeah. I mean, like, duh. But what is it? What's that one or two different things that will give you that purpose, and how are you going to help those people, and who are you going to help? There's a lot more that goes into it than just helping people. I mean, you can help people. You can be a doctor, you can be a nutritionist, you can be a copywriter, you can be somebody who creates a community. There are so many different ways to help people, but you got to try it out and you got to figure out about it, and you got to be intentional with it. Really think to yourself, like, when I feel the most energized, the most fulfilled, the most happy in my life, what am I doing? And chances are you're probably helping other people. And what can you take away specifically? What are those themes in there? Is there anything that that fulfills you more than others, or that you're really, really good at compared to some of those other things? That's part of it. And then the last thing, I think, well, we'll talk about the physical part at the end, but the last thing, as far as the more woo-woo part and trying to figure this shit out, is the balance between masculine and feminine energy. Now, again, I think complete men, we are in our masculine much more than we are in our feminine, but there is an understanding that there is two sides to all of us. There is no one that is constantly in their feminine, and there is no one that is constantly in their masculine. But in my masculine, I am a provider, I am a protector, I am a defender, I am the person that's going out there and finding challenges so I can test my limits and see how I can constantly do better. I am relentless, I am freaking consistent, I am disciplined. That's when I'm in my masculine. When I'm in my feminine, sometimes it's taking a back seat and letting my wife lead. It is allowing my wife to step into those roles depending on the season of our life. Like right now, my wife is the provider. She's the one that's holding down the W-2 while I chase my dream. So she has had to step into the masculine role a little bit more than I have. So then I step into the feminine. I'm the one that is sometimes taking care of the house. I am doing things that in a traditional household the woman would typically do. And for all of you feminists out there, shut up. I don't care what you have to say on this topic. I truly don't. This is my interpretation of it. So if you have a different interpretation of it, that's great. Whatever works for you. From what I found is typically feminists are miserable people that are forced into their masculine because they think that they have to be a boss bitch, and they'd probably be a whole lot better off, or a whole lot happier anyway, if they would step back into their feminine and found a complete man that would allow them to actually do that. Some of them have probably been hurt by those men that aren't complete men, that guy that I used to be. So I get it, but again, not the time or place for that. But understanding that balance, when to step into it, when to step back from it, that is what truly makes a complete man. And again, you can look at those things and look at Jon Snow, watch those shows, especially Jamie Fraser and Outlander. I think he's really a great example of it. Guy's typically in his masculine. He's a badass dude. He's big, he's strong, he kills in the name of his wife. But there has been, I'll try not to spoil anything, but there's been some times in that show where he's had some fucked up situations happen to him that have forced him out of his masculine. And Claire, his wife, stepped into the masculine in order to take care of him so that he could get back to the guy that he was before, and an even better version of himself after that. So those are the things. And then the other thing is the physical health. I mean, I forgot that one in the beginning of this, but dude, men, like if you're not taking care of yourself physically, you're not a man. I see these guys out there that are, I mean, they're just so fucking out of shape. They can't play with their kids. If they're, let's say that I saw this video and it was a woman, but it goes the same for guys. She was a mom and she had a stroller, and the stroller takes off and she goes to chase it and she falls down. She's horribly fat. She's out of shape. And luckily a stranger stopped the stroller before it went into traffic. But if you can't do that, or you're so out of shape that you can't defend your family, if you're not doing everything in your power to be the strongest physically and the most able to defend your family and provide for your family, I mean, that's sorry. And yeah, and people bring this up too. Oh my God. Well, what about guys that are handicapped? Listen, what are they going to do? I mean, they're going to do the best that they can. And maybe that's a case where the woman in their life is forced to step into that masculine protector provider role. I get it, but that's why there's a balance in understanding that. And I would be willing to bet, and I can't put myself into those shoes because I've never been handicapped before, but men that can fulfill all of these things that I talked about before that were to happen for them, they might be able to better handle that situation because they can understand these energies and understand that their wife loves them dearly and she's going to step into her masculine to take care of them. So anyway, again, women don't want weak men. They want strong men, and strong men are complete men. Strong men have a foundation of health. They understand their values. They have a clear vision for their life. They have purposeful pursuits, and they really understand the balance of the masculine and feminine energies and how to leverage them to be complete.